Hey everybody, this is Jen Swanson from CommunicationDiva.com, and this is podcast number 1. So welcome to this very first podcast session at Communication Diva. I've been very excited about getting this going, and just the technical aspects of doing something like this have been huge. So although the button for podcasting has been up on the website for quite some time, actually producing a podcast or an episode has been a very steep learning curve. I've had all sorts of people that have helped me do this, and I'll mention them a little bit later on, but it's been quite something to actually get this going. But here we are. So the purpose of this first session is for me to basically tell you a little bit about me and about what I hope to achieve with doing this, and then a little bit about what you can expect to learn about in upcoming episodes. So I guess I'll start with a little bit about my background. I have been working in healthcare in a job that was very fast-paced, an organizational kind of job where communication was key. I'm not doing that job anymore, but I did it for about 23 years. And I was what they called a nursing unit clerk or a health unit coordinator. Sometimes they're called ward clerks or unit secretaries, depends on where you are in North America. There are many names. It was a really busy and fun job, but it was sometimes quite a stressful job. And what the job entailed was being a liaison between doctors and nurses and all different kinds of allied health professionals. And again, communication was the main part of the job. If you want to know more about that job, you can actually check out the blog post I wrote about it. It's at www.communicationdiva.com/nursing unit clerk, all one word, nursing unit clerk. And that's where you'll get a full description of what exactly the job entails. It's a great job if you're not into being hands-on and blood and guts and all that with patients, but you still want to work in a hospital. So check it out. So I did that for quite some time, and then I wondered what more there could be. So I ventured into teaching. I decided maybe I could teach people to do the job that I had done. And so I went to school to learn how to teach adults at the college level and got a piece of paper for that. And I've been teaching for about 18 years now. Then I decided that I wanted something more. So I went back to school and I started studying in a completely different area. And now I'm still teaching, but I also work part-time as a youth minister in a church. And I am not finished school. I am working very slowly on a master's degree. So if you're keeping track of all of this, I work as a teacher part-time in a college in the healthcare industry. And one of the courses I teach is a communications course. I work part-time in a church working with children and youth, and I'm going to school very slowly. And in all of this, I have a very supportive husband, and between us, we have 4 amazing kids in our lives who allow us to practice our good communication skills quite often. So, why all of this craziness do I decide to start Communication Diva, you may be asking? Well, there are a few reasons. One of the reasons is that I've been noticing that while teaching the course on communications, sometimes called human relations skills, which is a very, very basic communication skills course, what I've noticed is that many, many of my students have never encountered any kind of discussion about communicating, never mind taken any formal kind of training in it. Many of them have never done this. And many of them have never even thought about the difference communication, could have if there was some care and attention given to it. Not that they're all bad communicators. Far from it. A lot of them are excellent communicators. But communication, again, is a practice, and there are always things that you can do to improve. And it was just something many of them had never, ever thought of before. The other thing I noticed is that a lot of them have said to me, that just learning a little bit in those 5 days that I teach them has made a tremendous difference in their lives. Just some practical skills that they've learned that they can apply in their everyday lives at work, at school, at home. And they say to me over and over again, wow, I never thought of that before. Some of the essays that they've written have made me really stop in my tracks. And for some of them, just again, learning 1 or 2 ways to communicate more effectively has had a tremendous impact on their relationships. And I wanted to read you a little excerpt from one of the essays. One woman wrote, "In the history of our relationship, this is the first time my husband and I had a conversation about something important that didn't end in a fight. This conversation will go down in the history of our marriage." So that to me was profound. If a 5-day class where I really just feel that I'm skimming the surface of this enormous scope of what effective communication is, if a 5-day class can make that much of a difference, I think how much more could be shared? And of how many more conversations and therefore relationships that could be improved somehow if people had the tools they needed in order to be able to communicate better. You know, what if? What if there was a place where people could share their ideas and their stories and their tips, and where there would be simple and practical ideas that people could take away and use? So that got me thinking, and that is how Communication Diva came to be. Now, I didn't even know what a blog post was before this past September. And if you're listening to this in the future, that's September 2011. I didn't even know what a blog was. And so with the help of some amazing people, and I'll put their names and links to their sites in the show notes, but people like Pat Flynn of smartpassiveincome.com, Cliff Ravenscraft of podcastanswerman.com, Samuel Clark of zanypost.com, James Clear of thepassivepanda.com, the guys over at thinktraffic.com, and also a website called bloggingwithamy.com. Because of those people, I have learned so much about how to do this because I'm really a newbie and I couldn't have done this without them. I still have tons of stuff left to learn, but I decided that I wanted to get on with it and get going, and that if I made mistakes along the way, well, then I would learn from those too. So you'll be hearing a lot of mistakes in this podcast, but I took some inspiration from a podcast I listened to by Cliff Ravenscraft, where one of his students had done her very, very first podcast, and she did a great job, and it wasn't perfect. And I thought, well, if she can do it, so can I. So here I am, and that's why you're listening to this. So the blog is up. There are lots of posts on it. It's been getting visitors from all over the world. And now I have launched the podcast. And my plan for podcasting is that aside from talking about some of the skills and techniques for improving communication, I really want to interview interesting people who use effective communication in their work every day. And to that end, I have some fabulous people lined up already, and my list just keeps getting longer. So I have people who work in family therapy who are going to talk to you about couples communication. I have somebody who is a working actor who is going to talk about body language. I have all sorts of different people, writers and educators and real estate agents and people who have to deal with people communicating in sometimes not the best of circumstances when emotions get involved and all of that. So I'm hoping that by listening to these people and their stories and hearing a little bit about their work and how they approach the task of improving communication, that we can all learn something new. So that's exciting to me, and I'm hoping to have those all lined up and get going with that very soon. And I'm going to sign off here in a moment because I think I've told you enough at this time. But my hope is that you will continue to stay tuned as Communication Diva continues to develop, and that you will come back and say hi to me every once in a while, that you will come over to the website at www.communicationdiva.com and say hello, like me on the Facebook link that's there, or leave a comment. I'm interested in your thoughts and ideas on all of this, and I'd really like to stay in touch. So thank you for taking the time to listen today to me and for sharing with me in my very first podcasting adventure. So I'm Jen Swanson signing off, and until I talk to you next time, happy communicating.